Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So we're going to carry on with the Egress Black Edition, see how much more we can get built of this. I've still got another 12-hour shift to do and it's 20 past 8 at night and I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning for work. But I'll get as much as I can done. So let's bring you in for a close-up look and see how far we get with this. Right, so here we go with the rear hubs. So first off, we're going to build his axles up, and these tiny little things are only threaded one side, and you're going to need the very small little black grub screws. So first off, it's telling us we need the anti-wear grease on here, so I'm just going to get a whole bunch of it on because we got loads of the stuff. The easiest thing to do is probably get this grub screw in first, or at least get it started. Then we're going to have to get his drive shafts, and we're going to put that through first. So then we're going to want to put that inside. You're going to want one of the tiny little pins, and then we've got to try and line this up and get it straight through and out the other side at drive shaft. So it takes a little bit of fiddling about, but you should be able to do it. Then we'll tighten his grub screw up. So that's one of his drive shafts assembled. Then we're going to want to get his bearings in the hub. And sometimes it works out better putting them in first, and sometimes it works out better putting drive shaft in and then sliding them on, but we'll see how it goes. So it looks like that goes in fine. Then we're going to get the tiny little silver screw, and you want to get this started in one of the wheel hexes, but don't crimp it down. And we're going to drop a drive pin through. Then line your wheel hex up, and we can just nip that up. Then we're going to want to get one at longer screws. That's going to go all the way through. And again, this is one of the few times that it's actually asking us to put a little bit of thread lock on. And once we get the thread lock in, you should be able to tighten that down. And you're not trying to crush the plastic on it, you're just trying to nip it up. So then we need to build the opposite one, and again it's probably going to be a lot easier getting it started first and then get your little hole lined up so you've got a good idea where it is. Then we're going to get his drive shaft, and getting plenty of grease on this does make it easier because it tends to hold the drive shaft where you want it. So once we've got all that in position, we can just tighten it down, and that grease will work its way around. Then this one we're building the opposite way around, so we get his bearings into place. Drop your drive shaft through, then we can get his little pin. I'm trying to build it up this way because it's the way the instructions show you, so it'll probably make more sense if you're following on building one of your own. So once we've got the hex in place, you can just tighten it down. Then we're going to pop the long screw through, Get a little bit of thread lock, and we're going to get his ball joint and fasten that on. So basically you want to end up with these so your ball joints both facing the same direction. You don't need to go crazy tight because your thread lock's going to get hold of it, but we should end up with a pair of rear hubs with these both on the same side. So let's see what else we need. So first thing we're going to need to build is two of these little tie bars. So basically we're going to get these, and you got one that screws on one way and then one that screws on the other, and basically we're just going to want to screw these down and make these 25mm, and you're going to need two of these. So we'll get these screwed together, see what else we need. Right, next thing you're going to want to do once you've got them down, and basically it's almost to the end at threads on both sides for 25mm, but we're going to need some anti-wear grease on the end of these, and although this is sticky grease, it's not as bad as the black stuff that I use in some of the other RCs, the graphite grease. That stuff does get everywhere. This stuff's quite easy to clean off. So once we've got that in place, we then need to grab the RC, and I'll see if I can build this back to front. So it's going to be the opposite way around to what the instructions are showing me. So basically we got to take one of these, and you're going to want to put it through, make sure it lines up in your output cup. So once we've got it in the output cup, then you're going to get two of these screws, and don't worry if you feel it pushing back a little, it's just the little piece of foam that we drop in there into the output cup. So got one in, then we got to get one in the back or the front side, and again this is where some decent screwdrivers are really gonna pay off for you. So just make sure that's tight. And all you're looking to do is just snug these down. You don't want to be over tightening them. There still wants to be plenty of movement in them. So let's get the other side in. This does seem a bit easier if you get one screw in. Just get it started, and then it's easier to pop the other side in. So once we've got that in place, we're then going to get the little turnbuckles. Not sure if we're going to be able to just force them on. Yeah, they're not too bad to pop on at all. And you want the adjustment knuckles on the outside, and I find the MIP 4mm driver absolutely fantastic for doing these Tamiya turnbuckles. So once it's built up, we should have two nice smoothly working wheel hubs, and we can check, make sure his diff's working there. So let's see what else we've got. So next we are moving on to I believe this is the rear shock tower. So you've got the little bit that's sort of cut out, and that slides inside. Then we're going to want one of the screws, one of the washers, and you should be able to put that through from the back. And we want the same again in the other one. And then we've got to get a little lock nut on the end of each one of these, possibly going to be easier said than done. That one's not too bad. So let's see if the included Tamiya tool will do the trick. Yeah, that fits really well. So we've got that in place. Let's see what else is next. So building up next, we've got the N1 and N7 part. So you're going to want these two to go together, and you want the flats to the bottom, and you want the hole at the top, the big centre hole, and then you've got 4 of these little silver screws that we're going to want to get in place. These all screw through from the back, so we'll get them tightened down. Right, so once we've got all 4 of them tightened down, we then going to put this into position on the front of the RC, and then we want 2 of these metal bits that should drop through and then socket into position. So let's see how we go about getting these to go through. It does say that we want these long ones. If you just wiggle them about a bit, they drop straight through. So what we might be better off doing with these is drop a Allen key through, and then you should be able to wiggle it around to get it to drop through. Yep, there we go. So you just need them to come through the bottom, and they do sit all the way down into the recesses. So see what else we've got. Right, so back to building tie bars up. So we're going to get 2 of these, and these are the 6mm, so the bigger of the set that we've got in this bag C, I believe it is, and we're going to build these up to 19mm. And again, same as the others, you want the inside ones flat and the outside ones stood up. So let's crack on and get these built, and then I'll get back to you. So that's how you want your 2 tie bars, and then basically you want the adjustment rings to the centre, and then we've got to pop 2 of these on. So we've got 2 of the little ball joints. Then we're going to drop a screw through each one of these from the back, so the part with the little cutout. Then you're going to want your spacer once you've got that on. So let's get them both set up, and then I can drop the thread lock on them both. So if we get them both set up, then you just want a little thread lock on the end of each one of those, and then these are going to have the 5mm ball ends on. And out of bag C, the spacers that you want on these arms, they're going to be the thicker ones. So we just need to get these nipped up, and then we'll see what else we're doing. And don't go crazy on these, because again, you're just nipping them up, and the thread lock is going to do its work and keep them on. So let's crack on. Right, so I'm going to do my best to show you what we're doing on here, but I don't think it's going to be easy to get these little clips on. But basically, we put in these into place, and then we've got to slide one of them through from the back, one from front. Then once we've got that into place, we got these tiny little E-clips that we've got to get on the back, and I'm not entirely sure what the best approach is going to be with these. So slide it into place, then get a turnbuckle wrench. And you can just clip them on. So I'll get the other 4 of them on and see what we've got next. Well, they're not quite as bad as they look, especially if you've got some decent turnbuckle wrenches. You can just poke them on. So let's see what else we've got. It's telling us to put the little foam bits in as output cups again. And then for me, with the output cups, I just like to put a little bit of this black grease on them. 1, it stops a bit of wear, and 2, it sticks them in. Kind of stops them dropping out all over while you're trying to build the RC, or if you strip it down and you're trying to work on it. And we should just be able to spin them round until they go in, and then they should pop in. Right, let's see what else we've got. Right, so first thing I'm going to do is drop a tiny bit of oil on his bearings, and that can be soaking through them. Then I'm going to get one of our wheel hexes and one of these tiny little screws, and I'm going to put that in and just get it started. Then, just because they always try and go missing, put those little grub screws into these things. And then I just put my last screw into this wheel X. So we've got all them in. Then I'm going to assemble these with the little nuts on the back. And you're going to have to go pretty careful with these because these look a bit frail. And they are held into place with lock nuts, so it's not there's not going to be any chance of them coming loose or anything. So I'll just get this one tightened up. So once we've got that tightened up, we're going to have to get this messy stuff again. So I like to work it into it, then get one of them and just pop it through. Then we can get rid of a bit of excess. Then we're going to want to line that up and get one of those little pins. It should line up pretty easy. Then we're going to drop a bearing in back, one in front, slide them together. Then you're going to want one of the thicker drive pins, and we can pop that through, get his hex in place. Then we can tighten his hex up, and then if you spin your drive shaft around, it may be a bit easier to hold it like this. But make sure your pin is level on both sides and just tighten it up. And we got one built up, and I just try with these to get it built up enough on one side to sort of push it through. And then if you just wiggle them a bit, they tend to sit down where they should do. So we can get that in place, get us drive pin, get us a little hex, just nip that up. And we should have two drive shafts built. So moving on, and let's see what else we've got. Right, so we've got a tiny little screw on either one of these, and then on this tiny little screw we've got some equally tiny little washers. And then they're going to want to go into the side facing away from the actual arm. It's not telling us to put thread lock on any of these. So let's get this one built up as well. So it looks like these are going to sit that way round. So we're going to want a screw through the top, then a bit of thread lock, and then one of the bigger 6mm ball joints on here. So that's going to sit that way round. And then this one going to come through from this side again. So we've got both them built up. Then we've got these 4 screws, and it looks like again these are going into the metal hubs. So you're going to want a bit of thread lock on these, or else you'll be losing your kingpins. Then, to assemble it, looks like you have it facing away. We're then going to put it that way round. Then if we flip it over, we've got one kingpin screw that goes directly in bottom with no spacer. Then we're going to want one of those little shims on the top, and we're going to want to drop that screw straight through the shim. So if we hold it that way around, you should have the screw on the outside and that facing back, the same direction as that for your steering. So should be able to repeat that on this side. So we're going to want the one in the bottom with no spacer. Then we're going to want a little shim sliding above it. And I must admit, Tamiya's tolerances are absolutely bang on. They're not a cheap kit, but you really can tell they kind of are cut above. I mean, there's no play. It's nice and smooth, but there's no slop. But they are kind of cut above the standard Tamiya kits. So we've got all that in place. Let's see what we've got next. Right, so first off, we're back to us gungy grease. So you're going to want some of that. And then we're fitting these with everything. I believe it's facing backwards on these. Right, once we've got grease on, you're going to want to go through the hole in the arm. Then you're going to have to line your drive shaft up. Once you've got the drive shaft lined up, you want a tiny bit of thread lock on one of these. And this is going to be fun because the drive shaft don't want to stay in. Maybe you can get it in with arms up until the shocks go on. So I want to get one at screws started, and as I said, these need thread lock on them. So get these screwed into place. One down, one to go. So let's get some of the anti-wear grease on. Then you're going to have to come through the actual arm. Let's see which side comes out easiest to show it on video, and that's the one I'll run with. But if this is the second arm, then the other one's done in exactly the same way. So that's got our steering and a suspension in place on both sides and as drive shafts. So once we've got them in, then we've got to pop that in place, and then you want your tie bars. Well, it definitely tells us to build these tie bars with them to the inside and put your olives in it, and then when you come to put them on the RC, it shows them your opposite way around. So Tamiya, which is the right way? Should be able to pop these out pretty easy. So we shall switch them round, because it's now telling us that they should be on that side. Not really sure on this RC if it'd make that much difference. Or at least just get it started. And then I shall spin this one round. Yeah, I definitely had to turn back a page in manual then to see if I'd understood it wrong or if the manual is the opposite way around, and it is. One page tells you to put them to inside, and then one page tells you to put them to outside. So maybe they changed their mind part way through. But it is definitely starting to look like an RC. But I think I'm going to leave it there for tonight. So let's wrap this one up. Right. So it's definitely starting to look buggy-like now. We've got some suspension arms, hubs. I wonder if anybody does these in metal. The little hubs, they might be quite a nice upgrade if they're available, but certainly far less play than any Tamiya I've built up to now. Everything feels really solid. There's a tiny amount of front to back play in the front arms, but very little in anything else, and it does feel quite sturdy. There's a tiny bit of chassis flex across it, but the actual chassis that way feels really solid. But thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Hopefully you're enjoying this build as much as I am. I can't wait to get it finished. But don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.